Hello everybody, welcome back to Planet X News. It is June 16th, 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, on June 15th, I was able to pull a file from the SEEDS program, and what you're looking at on your screen right now is kind of baffling. I'll be quite honest. I've been working with this photograph since it was rendered earlier this morning, and to tell you the truth, I really don't know what we're truly looking at here. I know because of the date and the 28-day orbit of this Planet X stellar core, I know pretty close where the positioning is going to be. And it was pretty close to right on the money. However, this time, we were able to capture this object at about the 5 o'clock position. Normally, we would capture this object pretty close to the 3 o'clock position. Somehow, some way, the satellite probe captured this image at this position you're looking at right now on your screen. Once we were able to clarify the image, when it rendered, it showed us another spherical body, kind of at the, well, I would say pretty close to the 11 o'clock position on the Planet X stellar core, as you can see in your lower right hand corner. Now, we did a lot of further analysis on this, and we were able to clear it up, considerably. I mean, it's not an easy task, and it takes a very, very long time for this program to produce the image and clear it up. But as you can see, there's a lot going on. Specifically, there were coronal mass ejections all through this area. There was some small ejecti on this area. But there was this very, very sharp ejection right here. Very different from what you're seeing here. This is kind of rectangular or squarish. This is very, very faint over here. But this one here, it just looks like a huge flame that projectiled directly out of the sun. And it seemed to be, in my opinion, attracted to that object. At the time of the photograph, at the time of this image, something else was captured within the photograph. I'm simply, at this point, possibly calling it a Planet X moon. But then again, as we got further into the analyzation of this object, it kind of looks a little weird. We'll get to that here shortly. But it's kind of not, completely circular. We're also dealing with depth perception. We don't know how close this smaller object was to the satellite probe, to the camera systems on that probe. So therefore, it could be a little bit of an illusion. We could definitely say that the larger object, the Planet X stellar core, is pretty close to where it should be during this time of the month. It seems to be further back, further away from the camera, and kind of encapsulated in that coronal mass ejection that the sun produced at that moment when this object was passing by. Because you can see it is kind of faint compared to the detail of that smaller object. So let's go ahead and move to a bigger frame, and you could start to see what I'm talking about. So here is this, well, we'll just call it the secondary object, this smaller object. And as you can see, the larger object is kind of faint. Now, I've examined, oh my God, probably tens of thousands of photographs over the years. And this is telling me that, this smaller object is definitely not encapsulated within this coronal mass ejection. Is it closer to the camera or not? We will never be able to tell. It's just literally impossible. But the other object definitely seems to be within that coronal mass ejection, and it's kind of faint. Let's get to the next photograph so we could get a bigger picture of this. So here we go. So once again, you can see this very, very sharp ejection from the sun. Definitely not your normal looking coronal mass ejection. Kind of very slender looking. It almost reminded me of like a large plasma release, but I mean, this would be entirely, too large. So it was definitely kind of a small CME that shot from about the 5 o'clock position from the sun. Definitely attracted to what you see right there on your screen. And here we have this object here, and as you can see, it's not completely round, which is kind of odd. But then again, a moon doesn't necessarily have to be round. If you look at the moon of Mars, Phobos, it's kind of weird shaped like a potato. So, I had one suggestion. The individual that helps me out with accessing this forensic program, she mentioned that, do you think that it was possibly a large asteroid passing by at the same time the snapshot was taken? That is a pretty high possibility. So, I went to the JPL, the Jet Propulsionary Laboratory, and they track all of the asteroids. And I didn't find nothing that was recorded in this vicinity at this time. So, we can call it a moon, we can call it a big space rock, you can call it whatever you want, but it's in the picture. Let's go ahead and zoom in even closer. Now, this is just the first set of photographs that the program rendered. And, considering all of the interference on these coronagraphs, plus on top of that, all of the heavily charged particles coming from this coronal mass ejection, you don't get crystal clear photographs from these probes. So again, you can see it just seems like the object has a little bit of an oblong look to it. So, we're used to identifying a moon to a planet as perfectly spherical. Well, that's just not always the case. But again, like I said before, we may never know. Now, we went ahead and did a negative on this this photograph to see if we can possibly see any type of more detail. And you can see all of these little dots, all of these little dots that you see, the black ones, the white ones, the gray ones. I mean, this is all of the ejecti coming from the sun. And this is also what we would consider the interference. As the sun releases its energy, those heavily charged particles, as they're hitting the detectors on these space probes, like the Stereo Core 2, this is what you're going to get. Sometimes you get even grainier photographs, but we did clear this one up, and it kind of worked out pretty good. So let's go ahead and zoom in on this, and now we can see this object a little more clearly. It seems to be illuminated on this one side, which then started to confuse me because, okay, well, if that smaller object wasn't enveloped in that coronal mass ejection, why would it be, kind of looks like it's melting or illuminated on this one side? So let's get a closer picture of it. So this is what I'm talking about right here. See how it's illuminated? So it's almost like it's melting, or it was being affected by what was happening on the sun, because you see more of this white. This is probably ejecti from the sun. Did it hit this object? Possibly. Now, referring to the larger object in the background, it's not illuminated on any end like you see here. So, now I'm even more confused. And I'm sure you guys are too. So, was the larger object so far back that it wasn't enveloped in this coronal mass ejection, but this smaller object, whatever it is, was? So, that's kind of a mystery. We'll get a even closer look at it. It's not pixelized or anything of that nature. But again, you can see what I'm trying to explain to you guys. The heavy illumination on just this one end, but the larger object, no illumination. So it seems that this smaller object was affected by what was occurring on the sun. And this big, larger object, which is obviously the Planet X stellar core, was not affected, was not hit with this ejecti coming from the sun. So we went and tried to, again, clarify what we're looking at a little bit further. And it did a really good job. This program does amazing work. Again, this program was not meant for this type of work. It was, this program is meant for and used by, law enforcement to enhance photographs and CCTV cameras and things of that nature. So, over the last couple of years, we've figured out a way to utilize it, and it's been working out pretty good. It takes a very, very long time because the process is very lengthy. There's a lot of programming involved in order to get what you want out of the photograph. And these photographs that come from, all the data that comes from the SEEDS program and these coronagraphs, it is just, I don't even know what the word to use. It's just, the data is just so corrupted. And, it's so grainy and so staticky. And I think that's why it takes a very, very long time for it to dig deep, peel back some layers, and find what we're looking for. So once again, now you can see this object much more clearly. So let's get into a blown up version. Now I know that the larger object is definitely not within this coronal mass ejection. It may be just out of the reaches because it is such a narrow band. And again, we're not looking at a three-dimensional image, so it's very, very hard to justify distances and depth. However, we were able to bring this image to the forefront, and as you can see now, it looks much more clear, and it seems that it has separated itself from the larger image in the background. So let's get to a blown up version. Okay, now, just like I was saying, the larger image in the background, the smaller image much more clear and to the forefront. So again, it's hard to say that maybe none of these objects were actually encapsulated within this coronal mass ejection because it was so narrow. But maybe this smaller object, and again, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it is a moon. I don't know if it is an asteroid like my colleague suggested. It's definitely not one of our planets. I mean, I do my homework. I checked. I made sure Mars, or not Mars, excuse me, Mercury and Venus were not in the picture. And they're not. You guys can go and, check yourselves. Sorry about that. I had to take a sip of my morning coffee here. But anyways, let's move on to even closer photograph. Now, again, we're looking at some more detail. We were able to draw out this detail. Now, it's almost starting to look a little 3D-ish, if that's even a word. So you can clearly see that this smaller object is definitely separate from what is behind it. Me personally, I stared at these photographs. Oh, I got them in at about 4 o'clock this morning, and I was pretty amazed. Mouth hanging open once again, and it never ceases to amaze me on what is actually going on out there. And the only people that are subscribed to Planet X News and that have been watching this channel and seeing the evidence, it's like you guys are the only ones that know. Look, let's be realistic here. We know the space agencies know what's up. Okay? They've got all the probes out there. They know what the deal is. But maybe they don't know exactly what it is either. That's the, $10 million question. But anyways, let's move on to this next photograph. Let's see here. This is kind of weird. My colleague used another technique. You know what? To be honest, it's in my email when she sent the photograph back over to me. I forget what the technique is called. It's part of this. It's part of this program. It's a long freaking name, but it's another form of an enhancement, and we can zoom in on this. So let's check it out. Now you can see definitely that it has been removed from this object that's further off in the back. Let's go ahead and zoom into it. So we can definitely see that this object is not completely round. It's got a weird, very, very weird shape to it. Could it be a broken piece of, whatever's out there? Could it have been an asteroid? Just not sure. I'm sure that, maybe if it was an asteroid and it was that close to the sun, and this is probably, several million miles away. This is not right up close to it, but I would expect to see some kind of maybe burning trail or possibly some kind of vapor trail or something. I don't know. So that's where it gets even more confusing. It's definitely a very, very weird shape. We could go get zoomed in all the way as far as it can go. It's very, very unique. I could say that. And this darkness that you see here, well, whenever you turn this into a negative, which we have here, that seems to be the side of this object, which would be facing the sun up here. Well, let's just zoom into it. Okay, so this started to show some more detail. Weird detail. It's almost, you see this line here, this area right in here. It seems like this area, and let's zoom all the way in. It seems like this area here is missing. Like it either had been blown off or collided with something else. Again, folks, so many questions. So many questions. Very little answer. Very little answers. Very little explanation. Speculation. I mean, this one here, this has me really puzzled. And this particular photograph here, I mean, look. I sat here, I think, almost an hour staring at this, trying to figure it out. Maybe one of you guys can figure it out. Take a screenshot of it. I don't know. Play around with the picture programs in your computer. See what you come up with. But I'm definitely sold on a large piece of this object has either been blown off completely or has been vaporized. I don't know, just once again, another big Planet X mystery. And you notice, you guys only find the top Planet X research right here on Planet X News. But this image here today, folks, it's really bent my mind. And I have a couple more photographs that we did some further enhancement and some dissecting. And I'm going to go ahead and show you those photographs right now. Now, this photograph is kind of an embossing technique. And, it kind of shows some weird detail. But what I really was interested in is examining this other smaller object. So let's go ahead and zoom in. I'll just zoom in all the way. So the embossing technique definitely shows us that the large spherical object that is kind of in the background is definitely there. Okay, that's not in question. But here we see the complete opposite. So this indented part that you see here, that would actually be what was left of this, we'll just call it a rock, whatever it is. This pink area still exists, but this white area that you see here would signify that that area is gone. Okay, so that was that surface area on the previous photograph that I was saying looks like it's been blown away, broken off. Maybe there was a collision. Maybe the sun vaporized that part of it. I just don't know. But it was definitely really, really weird. We did a coloration. Oops, sorry about that. Did a coloration change on this. Well, really not a coloration change. I don't know. It's some kind of amped up part of the program, and it kind of reverses things. It's a different embossing technique. It's very hard for me to explain. I don't know how to do it. My colleague did it for me, and pretty weird. But let's zoom in. Let's see the detail. So, again, we definitely see and know that there's a larger object off in the distance. It is perfectly spherical. But that smaller object, again, this time it is in a reverse embossing, which means it's being pushed out, not set in, not concaved. So we can see the mass here in the middle that still exists. This little bit of area right here that I'm outlining, that's the area that is exposed at this point in time, exposed directly to the sun. And that's that white area that I was showing you that, looks like it's either melting away or whatever, vaporizing. And this red area right here on top, well, I think it confused the program because it's been either blown off, vaporized, or there was some type of collision with this object. And the collision, I don't think that it happened recently. It could have happened whenever, a long time ago, 1,000 years ago, whenever this object was, was born. I just don't know. It's, I don't know, folks. Really, really weird. Here is another, just let me jump back here. This is another aspect that we were looking at. And this is showing us some very, very hot points. Very, very hot points in this photograph. And naturally, you see the big coronal mass ejection plasma release right up here, upper left-hand corner. And down here, we can see, yeah, this is pretty hot. So, this coronal mass ejection was, very odd in the shape of it, the direction of it. But let's go ahead and zoom in. And now we can see this area here is much, much hotter than the illuminated area right here in dark black, which was facing the sun. And this, I'm just assuming that this would identify the large chunk of this moon or whatever it is that has been blown away or, vaporized or whatever. Or maybe it just never existed. Maybe it's just an odd-shaped moon like Mars's Phobos. Just when you think you have it all figured out, you don't. Incredible. And one last photograph. Same thing. put it through one more program, and we were able to magnetize, or not magnetize, excuse me. I'm a little tired this morning, folks. Magnify. Maybe I better have another sip of this coffee. Hold on for a minute. Give me 1 second. Delicious. So anyways, back to this. Magnify. That's the word I wanted. Magnify. So we magnified this object, slightly pixelized. And again, more questions. See, we could zoom in. Can't zoom in all that much. So this is what we're looking at here, and this is what we're seeing here. I was hoping during the magnification process that it would not get highly pixelized. But, considering, folks, that what we're viewing here is 93 plus million miles away. And for us to capture even this much detail is incredible. So whatever it is, it's quite astounding. The mystery deepens. It's a 1 in a million shot. And you're seeing it right here for the first time on Planet X News. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Make sure that you subscribe to Planet X News. Hit that subscribe button for me right now. Also, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. YouTube pays attention to all of that. And this will allow Planet X News to move further up in the YouTube food chain. Okay, folks? So, again, make sure you subscribe, share the video, and give it a thumbs up. Thank you for watching Planet X News. Stay safe out there, folks.